Call the Willmar City Council meeting to order for Tuesday, September 7th. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Fagerly. Osmus.
Here.
Butterfield.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Osk.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Plowman.
Here.
Nelson. Here. 8 present, 1 absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? Councilmember Butterfield.
I would like to add on about talking about moving city council back to the utilities building.
Let's move that between items number 16 and item number 17 on the agenda, please. Councilmember Osmus.
I'll weigh in on that conversation.
Councilmember Nelson.
I'll just seek clarification because I thought we had an agreement not to just add things on that staff weren't prepared for. So I'm just curious about the addition to the agenda.
Additional comments or questions? Councilmember Butterfield.
Just because we're not broadcasting live again, it's happening too much. We need a more reliable broadcast system.
Councilmember Nelson.
I would make a suggestion that perhaps we just adjourn for the evening since we don't have the technology and we'll get it right. I'm not sure moving to the utilities is the solution for our technology.
Additional comments or questions? The item will be added between item number 16 and item number 17. Is there a motion to accept the amended agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
No?
6 ayes, 1 nay.
That motion passes. Next, we have 2 proclamations. The first one I will do will be the International Overdose Awareness Day. And we have a representative from United Way here that will accept the proclamation at the conclusion of the, after I read it. So this proclamation from the City of Willmar. Whereas International Overdose Awareness Day is recognized to raise awareness about the dangers and risks of drug use and overdose, remember those individuals who lost their lives to an overdose, acknowledge the grief felt by families, friends, and communities, and offer support to those fighting substance use disorder. And whereas Overdose Awareness Day aims to publicly challenge the stigma associated with substance use disorders and overdose, and whereas in 2020, 1,008 Minnesotans died from drug overdose, and of those deaths, more than half involved opioids. And whereas every human life deserves our best efforts to prevent injury and death from overdose, and it is imperative to support overdose prevention policies, projects, and to educate our Minnesota communities to understand better that drug overdoses are a social issue which impact the victim, families, friends, and communities. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Marv Calvin, Mayor of the City of Willmar, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 as Overdose Awareness Day in the City of Willmar. So with that, Ms. Anfinson, if you would like to accept this proclamation on behalf of the United Way.
On behalf of United Way, yes, we accept this proclamation.
And next, we have a proclamation in regards to Welcoming Week 2021. Whereas our community's success depends on making sure that all residents feel welcome here, today new residents are a vital part of our community, bringing fresh perspectives and new ideas, starting businesses and contributing to the vibrant diversity that we all value. And whereas this week we honor the spirit of unity that brings neighbors together across the city of Willmar during Welcoming Week, I invite all residents of Willmar to join this movement of communities nationwide by renewing our commitment to our core American values and by taking action in the spirit of welcoming. By working together, we can achieve greater prosperity and make our community the kind of place where diverse people from around the world feel valued and want to put down roots. And whereas regardless of where we are born or what we look like, we are residents, united in our efforts to build a stronger community. By recognizing the contributions that we all make to create a vibrant culture and a growing economy, we make our community more prosperous and more inclusive to all who call it home. And whereas, let us come together to build communities where every resident has the opportunity to contribute at his or her best. Let them come together to create more prosperous communities and to reaffirm that Minnesota will stand as a beacon of freedom and opportunity. Now, therefore, I, Marv Calvin, Mayor of the City of Willmar, do hereby proclaim the week of September 10th, 2001 as Welcoming Week. And I call upon the people of Minnesota to join together to build stronger communities across Minnesota, dated this 7th day of September, 2021. And also with that proclamation, there will be a celebration of our welcoming community in downtown Willmar this weekend. So those of you that are able to attend that, I would encourage you to attend that as well. I believe the events start early in the morning, but I think this main focus of this event is from 1 o'clock until, I think, 2. Am I right on that?
11.
From 11 until 1. 11 until 1. Sorry, I was wrong on the times there. So that proclamation will go to Pablo. He requested that to be put together. So with that, let's go to consent items. Ms. Thompson.
On tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval the city council minutes of August 16th, Willmar Municipal Utilities Commission minutes of August 23rd, Park and Recreation Board minutes of July 21st, accounts payable report for August 7th through 26th, application for exempt permit by Willmar Hockey Boosters Blue Line Club, application for exempt permit from the Knights of Columbus, an application for exempt permit from Church of St. Mary, temporary on-sale liquor license permit for Foxhole Brew House, a resolution for the purchase of a Kubota all-terrain vehicle from state contract included in the 2021 Capital Improvement Program, a resolution for the purchase of a Kubota zero-turn mower from the state contract included in the 2021 Capital Improvement Program, and for council's information, the Invest in Willmar Board minutes of March 10th, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the consent items. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Ask,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. That resolution passes. Is there anybody for open forum? Next, we have our hearings. Our first public hearing is proposed property tax abatements for tax abatement bonds to finance certain public improvements. Mr. Doug Green is here from Springstead. With that, I'll open the public hearing and turn it over to Mr. Green for his comments.
Would you like to start, Steve? Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor,
I guess
members.
that's what I have on my, was that supposed to go to you?
Oh,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Good.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, let's see if I can get that. Oh, let's see here.
We had it and it just went away.
Let's see. Note. Not that it's shown that next slide. Okay, so the I have one presentation for the public hearing, and then also for the bid results for the bond issuances. So the first two slides will be for the public hearing, and then I'll come back later in the agenda to talk about the results of the bond sale. So as a part of the Series 2021B improvement and abatement bonds, on an annual basis, we always have an improvement bonds to finance the street, a portion of the street projects. This year, we also are financing a portion of the pedestrian path, the shared use pedestrian and bicycle path. And as we've talked about before, we have to have authority under state statutes to borrow for certain things. And pedestrian path just happens to be under this statutory authority called abatement bonds. It's a little confusing word. But as a part of that process, what we do is identify properties that benefit from this project. It's not totally dissimilar from our improvement process, where we identify properties that benefit in a way that that's measurable. This is more subjective. So we identify the properties along the pedestrian path. Obviously, any reasonable standards, they do benefit from that. And so that's what we show. And that satisfies state statutes. Now, even though these properties are listed here in the resolution and abatement public hearing, nothing changes with those properties. Their property tax statements don't change, the amount that they pay don't change. It's just the fact that we've done our due diligence and said, yes, there are properties here. And in theory, those properties will go to pay the debt service on this. The state statutes require us to have an equal increase in the levy. We call that an abatement levy. In the end, it's a debt service levy by a different name. In this case, abatement levy and debt service levy is synonymous. We're just happen to finance this. So there's no reverse referendum period, no referendum period. It's just a simple public hearing where we go through the process to satisfy state statutes, identify those properties, and then that gives us the authority to borrow money under that authority, which we'll do later in the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Wilkins, our finance director, at our last meeting, you had made a comment at the start of the meeting that if there was the committee structure, that you would have made some additional comments. I was going to call you on it today, but then my day kind of fell apart. But do you remember what those comments would have been when you had made that statement at our last meeting?
In regards to the abatement portion of the improvement bonds?
I think it was in regards to the sale of the bonds, I think it was.
Pardon me, Mr. Mayor, I didn't quite hear you over here.
I think it was in regards to the sale of the bonds, or the preparation of the bonds.
No, the only comments I would have, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, is that, and Mr. Green explained it quite well, is that the improvement bonds normally do not include an abatement portion, but since this is a pedestrian path and not under 429, which is a special assessment, that's why we're doing the abatement portion for this portion of the bond issue.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to address that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody from the public that wishes to speak to this question? Seeing and hearing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it to the council table. Council, what are your wishes?
Move to adopt a resolution approving property tax abatement on 39 parcels to assist in financing of path project number 1904 on Lakeland Drive to Highway 12.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next, I will open a public hearing on an ordinance authorizing sale of land to RDC National Incorporated. This presentation will be done by Mr. Backman, our City of Willmar, Candiway County EDC Director. Mr. Backman,
Yes, good
I will
evening.
open the public hearing.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. With me tonight is Josh Johnson, off to my right here. He is with Bollig Engineering that has been hired by the developer RDC National. The sale of 11 city-owned parcels plus 6.3 acres of unplatted land and a vacated portion of 32nd Street is what's being considered. Planning Commission, as you're probably aware, reviewed the land sale and recommended approval. Rudabush Development and Construction, or RDC, seeks to purchase all of Blocks 2 and 3 in the Willmar Industrial Park 4th Edition, consisting of 24.84 acres plus the 6.3 unplatted to the west of the old airport site. The sale of land would include a section of 32nd Street that would be vacated. The purchase agreement was approved, as you are aware, on August 16th, and it was executed on August 20th by all the parties. And the introduction of the land sale ordinance occurred at the same meeting. RDC intends to build a logistics facility. I believe they've already given approval for full design work to move ahead. A development agreement is being worked on. I think we're on version 6. In terms of the purchase price for the property, it's $699,750 plus $140,000 in reimbursements. Should read there water main relocation, not street vacation, and $11,000 for removal of street lights. So the grand total would be $850,750 that would be provided to the city. I would stand for any questions or open it up also for any comments that Josh would like to make. Anything that you would like to add at this time?
With that, this is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting, move it to the city council. Council, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance authorizing land sale to RDC National, Inc., and assign it a number and publish it.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. I'll make a couple comments. This is a very exciting time for the city of Willmar. This is a large development coming into our industrial park that will change the look of what the western side of Willmar looks like. It is a great project for us. Our staff, along with members of the EDC, have worked very hard to make this project and bring this project to the table. I want to give thanks to Dr. Ramstead for his work prior to his departure on making this happen, and I know that you worked very hard on this, Mr. Backman, along with Ms. Swedberg, who brought this project to us, so we thank you for that. I think this is an ideal project for the city of Willmar, something that will bring jobs. What we're hearing is about 200 new jobs, head of household jobs, but will also change the fabric of that portion of our community, which will allow some or require some additional stoplights and those types of things. So thank you for your work in bringing this project to us, and I look forward to the vote.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Councilmember Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Thank you very much for your work. I do appreciate it. Next, I am looking for a resolution to publish the ordinance by summary.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to publish the ordinance by summary. This takes 6 votes of the council to pass. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Thank you. Next, we are going to set a hearing to introduce a vacation of right-of-way drainage, utility, and other easements in the Willmar Industrial Park 4th Edition. Ms. Swedberg.
Mayor, members of the council, it's nice to join you again tonight. This is the next step in the vacation of right-of-way for the project that the land sale was just approved for. So as we've discussed in the past, a vacation first comes to the council, it gets passed to the planning commission, and then it comes back to council for a final public hearing and approval. So tonight's action is to adopt a resolution setting a public hearing on September 20th for the vacation of right-of-way drainage, utility, and other easements in blocks 2 and 3. There's a couple updates to the resolution that was originally passed by council that I just want to run through that was included in the resolution submitted by planning Planning Commission, and that would include a couple language additions to the legal descriptions of the vacation of easements. A clarification that the 69 kV line electric easement along the west side of the property between the platted and unplatted area will not be touched with this project. That additional unplatted property that they're purchasing is really for future development, and at this point vacating and moving that power line just isn't necessary nor worth the cost at this point. So that one will not be touched. As Mr. Beckman had reviewed, the city will receive $140,000 for relocating the existing water main in 32nd Street, as well as $11,000 to remove and reinstall streetlights that are along that street. RDC National will certainly be responsible for all of their costs associated with relocating and capping of any other existing utilities within easements being vacated, including the major open ditch that runs north and south through that property. So they'll be piping that and rerouting it, all to spec and approved by the city before final approval of that work. There are also 3 conditions that the council or that the Planning Commission would recommend be added to this, and that's simply for kind of checks and balances to make sure that all other components of this complex project are approved to move forward with the vacation of the easement. So with that, it would be staff recommendation to go ahead and set that public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to set a public hearing for September 20th for the vacation of right-of-way drainage, utility, and other easements in the Willmar Industrial Park for this project. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Osk,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes as well. Thank you for your work, Ms. Swedberg. Next, we have the Economic Development Commission 2022 budget presentation. Mr. Backman.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, in your packet is the proposed 2022 budget. Overall, I am again presenting a balanced budget for the coming year, as I've done for the last 5 years. Out of the 197 budget line items, 71 have gone down, 64 have been increased, and 64 remain the same. I look at all line items. The county levy request has been increased from $534,000 in 2021 to $556,000 in 2022. And I should point out that in 2020, there was not an increase. So the increase of $22,000 represents a 4.1% increase. The levy request represents about 85%. So the county provides about 85% of total projected revenues for the EDC. Total revenues for 2022 are $656,975. This is actually a 55% decrease from the current year's revenue of $1,448,000 and change. I should hasten to add that $749,000 of that, as you probably are aware, is related to the Minnesota Pandemic Relief Grant Program, or MPR program as we called it. Total expenditures for 2022 are $652,657 and are also notably down from the 2021 expenditures total. But again, that is related to MPR. The EDC's Joint Operations Board on July 8th and the Joint Powers Board on July 22nd unanimously approved, both of them, the proposed 2022 budget for the EDC. And I might also add that this morning the County Commission also unanimously approved the 2022 budget for the EDC. I would stand for any questions.
Council, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to adopt approving the proposed 2022 budget for the Candiota County and City of Willmar Economic Development Commission.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion does carry. Aaron, you run a tight ship, but you also run a frugal ship. And I really enjoy, I had the privilege of hearing your full report at the Joint Powers Board, yeah, I want to put operations in there, but that's not right. The Joint Powers Board. And you're very thorough in your presentations, and you do very, very good job, so thank you very much for that. So go forth and continue to do good work, and we're expecting next year's development projects to equal or surpass this year's. So, no pressure, no pressure. Thank you for all the work you do, and Ms. Swedberg, your work as well is appreciated. Next, we have consideration of a resolution awarding the sale of $3,495,000 of government GEO Improvement and Abatement Bonds Series 2021B. Mr. Green again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully this will come up. There we go. So I'll go back to the previous slide. So if you don't, if the mayor and council don't mind, I'll go through both the results of both bond issues here.
Right.
So again, we sold 2 series of bonds today, which is abnormal. Not abnormal out in the market, but we typically don't do that within the city. So again, the Series 2021B, that's the second series this year because the sales tax bonds were earlier in January. It seems like a long time ago, but it was this year. Financed the 2nd Street Southeast and Eagle Ridge Drive Improvement Project, and as we mentioned in the abatement hearing, the shared path. The Series 2021C sales tax revenue bonds financed the recreation fields and event center. We went through the abatement public hearing. Put this up here. So we took bids for both series at 10:30 this morning. Had very, very successful sale. On the first series, we had 4 bidders, which is what I would have expected for 3, for offering about $4 million. The winning bid was from Robert W. Baird out of Milwaukee, one of the largest regional underwriters. Winning bid of 1.04. Again, we award the bonds based off what we call a TIC, a true interest cost. That takes into account the coupons and yields that they offer, and it takes into account the fee that they pay themselves. You see the bids are very close. That is a good thing because we know that we got a fair market price for that. On the sales tax revenue bonds, we had a very big showing, and you can see what happens when you offer $16 million. You get some household names in there, like a J.P. Morgan, and Hilltop is huge throughout the country as well. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bids, which is outstanding. Winning bid by Piper, even though we had a big J.P. Morgan. International firm come in and bid. Piper Sandler out of Minneapolis still won at a 1.09%. Again, remember the improvement bonds were over 10 years and the sales tax bonds were over 11 years. So very similar repayment term. This is a busy slide, but I like to show this because it can get confusing. This probably sounds familiar. We receive a premium from the bids. And so when we go out to bid on the improvement and abatement bonds for $3,495,000, that's what we offered out to the public. And we don't assume any premium. We know we're probably going to get a premium, but we price it initially as par bonds, that they're going to pay 100% for the bonds. We show the other funding sources there for these projects. Staying with that pre-sale line, we estimate the cost of issuance. We know that's going to be pretty close. The underwriter's discount, again, that is part of the bid that that can vary more at times. Here it was pretty close. And so we have after we pay those expenses, we have a deposit to the construction fund. And at the time, about a month, 6 weeks ago, we were estimating 1.18, which resulted in about $370,000 per year. Following the sale, we do receive a premium, and for a $3.5 million bond issue, it's quite a big premium, as is typical these days. So what we do, we take that and reduce the amount that we need to borrow. But of course, we pay higher coupon rates. So, and then when we take those other sources, we have $4,839,000, which is, that's not exactly right to say total price paid for the bonds, because it does include those other local sources of municipal state aid and utilities commission. But the cost of issuance changed a little bit based off of the bid amount. The underwriter's discount came in pretty close to what we were estimating. And so you can see whether we have par bonds or premium bond, what goes into the project construction fund is the same. And on an average annual debt service, it's roughly the same as well. Again, we allow those bidding parameters. The underwriters meet the needs of their investors who want 4 and 5% coupons. They're willing to pay 110, 120%, a 20% premium for those bonds. And we also meet our needs to fund the construction fund, what we need. The true interest rate came at 1.07, and so that reduces the average annual debt service a little bit. Same thing with the sales tax revenue bonds. There's a few more things going on here. You see the pre-sale offered $16 million. The city's contribution for cost of issuance is going to be paid for out of existing sales tax revenue. We were estimating cost of issuance of $70,000, and when it's upwards of $16 million, that's a lot of bonds for them to sell. So that variability and the fee that they pay themselves, which is known as the discount, that can vary pretty widely as well. But they include that in their bid. So we estimate pretty high, and you can see it came in quite a bit lower. The true interest rate going into the sale was 1.25 for average annual debt service of 1.57. Post-sale received a huge premium, and that's just reflective of who these buyers are. We have huge, $1 million blocks each year. So those bring in different types of buyers, and those buyers really want 4 and 5% coupons. So we get a huge premium. Again, the city's contribution for the cost of issuance just offsets it down below. The underwriter's discount, again, then what goes into the project construction fund is the $16 million. True interest rate is 1.12, so about 13 basis points lower, and that reduces debt service by about $10,000 per year, $100,000 or over $100,000 over the life of the bonds. So, again, what you have in the agenda shows a higher par amount. What we'll be approving, I do believe the revised awarding resolution is in the packet, okay, we have that. Thank you. So what does this mean for existing debt service? This is just pointing out finance now 4 of the 6 projects, and coincidentally, we're right at about $2 million. And so I know there's probably been a lot of discussion about the monthly sales tax revenue is coming in. It's looking pretty good. I guess if we stay constant right now, it'd be about 2.4 million per year. Are we in the ballpark?
That, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, is correct. That's about where those revenues are. We just received another update from the Department of Revenue, and it's in the 2.4 range coming out of the pandemic.
So as we go forward and plan, there's some, there's a little fund balance there. We have some planning costs. Those estimates will change. Right now, we're looking at 2.4, and we have a little under, right about $2 million in annual debt service. So as of now, I have about $400,000 more per year in space to finance projects. And again, that's a moving target. So we'll just continue to keep our eye out for that. But I wanted to give you that. It just makes it pretty easy to remember where we are. $2 million for annual debt service and 2.4 for revenue as of now. So for each bond issue, went through a rating process again, and just to remind folks or if new to this, what the credit rating is. We have to get a credit rating with each new bond issue to make them marketable to the public. Potential bondholders do require that. And we are currently sitting at a AA3, which you can see there's a very high grade credit. The difference in each one of those levels depends on the market. Again, it's anywhere between 0.05, which is 5 basis points, up to 7 maybe. So not a whole lot of difference, sometimes up to 10. Not a whole lot of difference in interest rate. And we're very solidly in that AA3 category. So with that, along with the general obligation backing of the city, resulted in, 1% interest. Just to highlight some of the things that the Moody's report talked about, again, same thing every year. Very strong financial position, annual budget performance. What you budget, it comes in on budget. Reflects a healthy fund balance and the liquidity in the enterprise funds as well. They do, even though we have the hospital debt off of their credit rating ratios, would like to, they do still talk about it being an enterprise risk because it's city owned. But we're going to talk to them in the future about just what kind of, it's pretty, what's the word? The risk seems pretty minimal when you look at the lease language. So hopefully we can convince them to just get that language out of there. But if not, it's probably not going to change much, but every little bit helps. The second bullet, very strong financial management, good policies, and again, the excellent budget to actual results on a year-to-year basis, regional economic center, healthcare hub, and the only thing holding us back is things we really can't control, relatively lower incomes compared to higher rated cities. And those cities are predominantly in major metropolitan areas. So with that, it's a very successful sale. It certainly reflects the market, and be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Oakins, are there any comments you wish to make?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I just would like to add in regards to the sales tax issue. I know that's a subject that the council has looked at very closely. And the two projects that still remaining that aren't financed are the $2 million for the community center and the $7 million of stormwater work. We've done approximately $500,000 of the stormwater work with cash proceeds that we have collected already. The mayor will be addressing those two other projects as we move forward in the budgeting process, because there is a cash balance that we've collected sales tax to date. We will look at that as it compares to the annual debt service that you saw there. And so the council will have a decision to make if you want to finance those projects moving forward or possibly pay cash as you go.
Thank you for your comments. Council, what are your wishes? We're looking for a motion to award the sale of $3.495 million general government improvement and abatement bonds series 2021B.
I'll make that motion to adopt the resolution of 2021B in the amount of $3,495,000.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next is a consideration of a resolution awarding the issuance and sale of 16 million government operating sales tax revenue bonds series 2021C.
I can enter that resolution.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Mr. Green, thank you for driving out today and being at our meeting. These are very favorable numbers. Anytime we can be in the 1% range for bonds is favorable to the city. So thank you for your hard work and marketing those well. And also thanks to staff for the work they do to keep our bond rating where it is. So I do appreciate that. So thank you very much. Next we have consideration, Councilmember,
Mayor.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Nelson. I
That's
thought I saw a hand over
Yeah.
there.
I just wanted to say thank you, and I wondered if we could receive a copy of that PowerPoint presentation. There's some good figures in there as we work forward to with our next sales projects to have available. And just wanted to say thank you.
Ms. Valiant, can you make sure we receive those? Thank you. Next, we have consideration of professional service agreement with Bolton and Mink for 2022 construction projects. Mr. Manzer, our interim Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Before you, I bring a consideration to adopt a resolution entering a professional service agreement with Bolton and Mink Incorporated for 2022 construction projects. Project 6th Street Southwest from Willmar Avenue to 19th Avenue, 13th Street Southwest from Trott Avenue to Litchfield Avenue, then Litchfield Avenue Southwest from 13th Street to the dead end east of 12th Street.
Okay, so staff is asking us to adopt a resolution entering into a professional services agreement with Bolton and Mink for professional services for the 2022 construction projects in the amount of $391,748.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve a professional services agreement with Bolton and Mink. Discussion. Councilmember Nelson.
Not opposed to the agreement. I'm just curious about the construction projects, how long they've been worked on already, when were those streets already decided?
These are the streets that we identified for next year. It was kind of in the works, so we had some preliminary work done. We also have, as part of this next year's project, would be a mill and overlay of 19th Avenue from First Street to Willmar Avenue by Tuisha Construction. And we're hoping that that design can be completed before our one of our techs leaves here next week. So we're hoping that we can get that wrapped up and put that on the shelf. Also, we have Industrial Boulevard out in front of like Northern States Supply and along there is on the works, and we've got some quite a bit of preliminary work done on that, so we're hoping we can get much of that completed. If not, we're gonna have to probably pass those along as well. These are projects that were we knew when what we had in front of us that we couldn't get those completed in-house, so that we felt it was necessary to get these going, so we had them on the shelf for next construction season.
Thank you.
Councilmember Paulman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is regarding kind of the budgeting for the engineering costs related to the budgeting for the actual construction costs, and I don't know if that's you or if that's Jared. But I know that, you know, in the past, we've always taken a look at soft costs or engineering and survey and all those types of costs as they relate to overall construction costs. In this case, the construction costs are to be determined. We don't know exactly what they're going to be. But do we have reason to believe that the amount that we're approving here tonight for professional services, do we have any kind of idea, are we in the realm of normalcy in terms of that percentage, that 15, 20% soft cost? Is there any way to know that, or is that kind of a shot in the dark right now?
To be totally honest with you, I'd have to defer that question to Jared because he's much more knowledgeable on those numbers, as I'm kind of just getting introduced to it by the fly here a little bit. So I'm going to defer to Jared if he wants to address that. He's really easy to defer to.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Specifically to that question, and you're right, in the information this evening, the construction cost is to be determined. Ultimately, that's because the first step in the process is a feasibility report. Historically, there have been numbers that have been used to estimate a cost. What we've found is those haven't been always the most accurate, and the best way to get those pricing is through the feasibility process. However, based on the bid prices that our firm has received throughout 2021, we did estimate those projects, and I can tell you that going through the exercise and identifying how many hours we anticipate for this whole entire process to take, we're in that approximately 17% range of what we're anticipating. So fortunately, as we become more familiar with the city and we do more work in town, we're very familiar with what's required, and I think
in my opinion, I guess I'll say that I believe that's a benefit to every resident in the community, so.
I think one of the advantages that Ms. Valiant had talked to me about is that we hope to have the numbers on the street sooner. And we know, because we've been told, you know, the county pays about 50% less for their asphalt costs based upon what we pay. And so if Bolton and Mink is able to get these numbers on the table faster, we could have a substantial savings on the asphalt cost. We don't know that until that bid comes through, but that's one of the goals, what we're trying to accomplish.
And if I can follow up, thank you for that number, because I know that it's kind of a floating target as of right now, but I believe that's a good vote of confidence in terms of, you know, Bolton and Mink as an organization, working with the city of Willmar. You guys are a large organization and you work with more cities than just the city of Willmar. So I think that brings an extra level of expertise, but then also cost projections as well. So we can kind of feel a little bit more comfortable. At least I do anyway. So thank you.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. I'm guessing that we have some exposure as if we did the engineering and we don't do the project, that we'd still have the engineering costs. But this is not the first time that you have worked with us to do these designing. And so I have confidence in working with you and doing this. But I think we do need to recognize that we're making a commitment to move forward with these projects, so.
Mr. Manzer? Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that these projects have been in the works, and there's some utility work that has to happen on these. That I know there's some water main on both 6th and 13th that are driving these projects, so that's kind of the part of the driving force on getting these projects identified. And we hope to have, like I said, these other ones on the shelf ready to go, and hope that we can get ahead of the game and get this going earlier than we have in the past. And I have a total confidence in Bolton and Mink, and been working with Jared and them over the years, and it's a top-notch outfit.
Council, we have a consideration of a professional service agreement with Bolton and Mink for the 2022 construction projects that has been presented. We have a motion and a second. Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Next, we have consideration of setting assessment hearing for unpaid weed, grass, mowing, removal charges. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, tonight before you pursuant to our Willmar Municipal Code concerning the cutting of weeds or grass, the cost can be certified as a special assessment against property owners. And this is something that I bring to you annually. This year we have 5 properties that I'm asking to have their assessments be certified against our property, and asking for the council to set a public hearing on September 20th.
I'll make a motion to set that public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to set a public hearing for unpaid weed, grass, mowing, removal charges. Discussion. Roll call. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion does carry. Next, we have a item introduced this evening on a conversation to move our meetings back to the Municipal Utilities Commission building. And I will call first on Councilmember Butterfield, followed by Osmus, followed by Nelson. Councilmember Butterfield.
Yeah, I would like to see us moving. We've had too much technical problems with the TV feed. We can't get a phone number on the screen out here for people to call in, and it's just, I can't see putting any more money in out here. I can't. If we already have the system down there, let's move back over there and go with it.
Councilmember Osmus.
I was just wondering if we would include this on our retreat, because I just know there has to be further information about if there would be additional cost to move back there, we have the issues with parking, and to have an open discussion about the two locations.
Councilmember Nelson.
I guess I would just speak that we left there for safety reasons, and I think just to recognize that, I'm good with looking at this on the retreat if we want to. I do think there are technology upgrades out here that the city could do, and they would be, I mean, we've had this discussion before because the county doesn't do live. It's our responsibility, and we have invested in this building, and I'm not sure how much it cost, and I do think there were funds that should have been available. It was discussed, and I don't believe our IT felt there was the need for the upgrades. However, I think that the upgrades could be done and that this location serves us. And we've made an investment in this, and so I do agree. As I stated earlier, perhaps it's going to take canceling a meeting if the technology doesn't work to get the attention to get it done. I'm not sure. But I do think that talking about it at the retreat is probably a solution for right now.
Councilmember Plowman, followed by Councilmember O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I share in the frustration of technology problems, delays, hiccups and whatnot. I will say that, COVID threw us all a wrench that we were not expecting, and I was quite pleased with our team's technical ability to get together. And I know that there were some road bumps, but in all honesty, I watched much larger metropolitan cities that dealt with the same technological road bumps, getting everybody able to video conference in, having that technology all available and get it up and working. And our team did that. And we were also able to make the hybrid thing work, and that was possible. So I think that before we go to hastily make any kind of changes, that it at least warrants further discussion also with those at the table who would be implementing those changes. Those in charge of our technology know exactly what we can and can't do and what resources they have to work with. And I think it's only fair and responsible to hear from them at that time as well.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Being one of the new members on this council, when you say safety, I mean, from what I read and stuff is, if that was the main reason that we're sitting here now, is for safety, I would like to ask the chief, really, is there a concern of safety for us down there?
Let's keep it at the council table for now, and have the city administrator direct that to staff if she chooses, if that's okay with you.
Yep, that's fine. But again, I have municipal public utilities meetings down there, and it's a very, very nice area to have meetings. You've been there, I know, before. But like I say, if safety is the main issue, I'd like us to really look at that.
Additional comments or questions from council? Councilmember Butterfield, are you wanting to make a motion, or did you want to have this discussion? In hearing the discussion, are you willing to have it as a discussion item at our retreat?
Yeah,
We're going to be talking about that later on.
But I do not want the city to put another dime into fixing this up, so lost cause. We've put too much money into it. We got a system down there that can work, so let's discuss this at the retreat.
Any differing opinions to that? Ms. Valiant, can you place that on the agenda for the retreat? I'm sorry, just a minute. Councilmember Nelson.
No, I'm fine with doing it on the retreat, but there's been some statements made about our investments here. And so if we're going to throw this place under the bus, then I think we also need to review what have we invested here and what would it cost us? So before we just make the statement that we've thrown our money away, I don't think we have, so.
Additional comments or questions? With that, it'll be an item on the retreat if we get that finalized in three agenda items. Next, we have consideration of updating the city logo. Ms. Valiant.
Good evening, council. So I brought this to the council tonight in discussion of the city logo. Currently, our letterhead logo is the big red W with the city of Willmar. And about, 3 years ago, I believe it was, when the website was updated, they had come up with the new logo with the green and featuring the city of Willmar and the green logo and more of a grayish color. And so just wondering if the council wants to, start using this logo as our official logo. If you've seen our park and rec trucks, they do have this logo on it. Of course, our public works truck has the big red W on them right now. It can be a process over time to, instead of changing the logo completely all at once, but as things become outdated and trucks become newer, then that's when the logo would change on our vehicles.
Okay, Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. I'm going to speak against this. I don't know how we came up or who made the decision to put it on our website. However, our official logo is the red Willmar. We just authorized a sign to be redone that was hit by a car. And I think we had this discussion then to stay with the logo with that. And those signs that were put up around the community were done through community funds that were raised by different organizations. And so, if there comes a time that we want to change the logo, I think we should have a design. I'd like to see us go back to using the red logo and remove the confusion of the other City of Willmar logo that just sort of arrived somehow. And so I am not in favor of changing the logo. And I think that it sends a mixed message with the differences. And so I'm prepared to make a motion to stay with the red Willmar logo and to use it on all of the correspondence as we can. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think this is a bigger topic that we're probably going to have to address in the future. First and foremost, I think continuity and branding is super important across the business world, across the municipal government world, all of that. Continuity in design and branding and product awareness, so to speak, and our product is our community. And so we need to be on the same page with that. We need to be consistent. So to that end, I do agree with the comments that have been made that if we are going to have a look and a feel and an official logo, that is the logo that we should have, and it should be used universally. I am particularly not so keen on the red logo, but that's okay. I can set that aside for now. I think that an overall discussion of a universal logo change is a discussion that could be quite productive, because at that time we could decide, first and foremost, are we all in agreement that if we do incorporate a new logo, what should it be? And then also, is it going to be universally employed across all signage and all vehicles and all literature and digital media and whatnot? I think that that's an important issue to look at all at one time. Mm-hmm. So I can support kind of maintaining where we're at right now for the sake of continuity, but I would then after that be supportive of a larger overall discussion regarding branding and a potential logo change universally throughout the city. Thanks.
Additional comments or questions? Councilmember Rasmus.
I totally agree with everything that Councilmember Plowman said as far as the continuity. I would just like to add that I would like to include some community input into the new logo design. We haven't talked about how the community would have a say in what the new design might look like.
Councilmember Nelson.
I'm agreeing with Councilmember Plowman and also that the community should be involved in this. I just don't think this is the right time or the top of the heap for us to be worried about. And my motion is to stay with this logo, and maybe in a year or two, we need to have a contest and come up with a new logo and a new design. But for now, I think that what we have should be used.
Councilmember Osk.
I'm going to join everyone in agreeing with Councilmember Plowman. Thank you for your comments there. I do think the continuity is very important. Can you give me some history on where does the city of Willmar with the green and the blue, where does that come from? Where it
Yeah,
happened?
it came back in 2016, 2017, when the new website was developed. And it was decided from basically on the IT side and the planning side that we needed a fresh new look on the website. And they developed this logo with the help of quick signs. And then it just kind of spurred on its own from there. It was taken, as you see, the EDC uses this logo also on multiple things. It just gave a fresh, brand new look to the city of Willmar at that time. And it's been picked up from multiple areas now in that respect. We are in the process of our comprehensive plan, and this is the good time that this conversation comes. The comprehensive plan is going to be dealing with 12 chapters over the next year. It'll probably take, it should be launched in October with a hub center, it's called, and the first 4 chapters of the comprehensive plan in draft form will be coming out. It'll be very interactive. We could start also then the conversation of the logo through that process, because it's going to be interactive on the internet and open to the public, whoever wants to make comment. So we could continue this conversation and have this conversation start with a comprehensive plan, because that's what comprehensive plans are for also, is marketing and branding and what your city should be developing over the next 10 years or so.
Councilmember Davis.
Could we find out how much it would cost to rebrand everything at the same time, just so that we know? And also, I would like to point out this logo at the top of this sheet. I'm sure, I don't know what year that was, but at some point they changed because we needed to look newer and fresh, and maybe it's time to do that again. I mean, all businesses refreshing their logo at some point. So I think it might be a good idea to look into that.
The current logo was back in 2017. No, this logo that now. The letterhead, it doesn't say what year that came about. Previous one was in 1990, which was a red mirrored crown.
Yeah, I think the Flying W came after probably about the 1990 timeframe. I don't know. Mr. Oaklands isn't here any longer. But the Flying W has been around since at least 2000.
In 2005, of course, you became an American city or whatever that, and so you have that shield with this, with the W on it then now for that too. All-American City was in 2005. So you also have that particular one, and that is also on the gateway signs, that sign.
Well, first off, Ms. Valiant, thank you for bringing this to us. In 2017, the city talked about it, the council talked about it at a work session, and I think this is the first time it's coming back to us, so thank you for bringing it back to us, because we shouldn't leave anything lay on the table this important. Branding is important. Branding of a city is important. It's the first thing that people look at when they're applying for jobs. It's the first thing that developers look at when they're looking for a community to expand to. Are you new? Are you innovative? Are you cutting edge? Or are you something that's been there for a long, long time?
Yep.
And so I think your conversation about talking about it through some other venues is good. I think had we probably dealt with this probably back in the 2018s or 2017s, probably we wouldn't be having this conversation today and we wouldn't have the confusion. Our staff took a aggressive approach and went out and designed something, and we should have gotten it approved by the council, but we didn't do that. But you found it, and you brought it to us and said, I remember when you called me about it, and you said, Mr. Mayor, we need to have consistency here. This is confusing to people. So I agree with everything that's been said tonight, and I do agree it's not at the top of the heap, but our brand is at the top of the heap. Our public image is at the top of the heap. And if some things can be done to change that and can improve that, I'm all for that. I'm all for making us a better, stronger, more welcoming community. And I agree with everything that's been said tonight. And we do have a motion to leave it as the Flying W, and as it was always called when I started working here. And that was in the year 2000. And we have a motion, and it's been seconded to make that happen. So with that, Councilmember Plowman, followed by Osk.
I'm going to seek clarification. So is the intent of the motion then to remove the newly done City of Willmar logo from the website and other media usage and revert back to this? Or is the intent of the motion to simply carry on as we are currently until the issue can be addressed again?
I would ask the city clerk to read the motion back, but I believe the motion was to revert back to the Flying W. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the maker of the motion, was that your intent?
Yes, that's my intent. I can agree with all of this. I just don't think this is the time for us to do it. I don't think it'll cost us anything to change it on the website. And I think the consistency, it was no different than when we were looking for a city administrator. We had to correct it there also to match the letterhead. And I think it has a mixed message right now, and I'm more than willing to look at a new logo in due time. But I do think we need the clarification, and my request is my motion is for it to be the W for now.
Councilmember Osk,
I was going to ask for the motion to be read.
did you read the motion back to us, Ms. Thompson?
Councilmember Nelson made the motion that we stay with our current logo, which is the Flying W.
It's just vague to me, but the side comments help me understand at least the intent of the motion, so.
It's my understanding that is our legal, we never had a motion, we never took action to change it to a different one. So it is our legal city logo. And that's the motion I am making, to that we stay with our legal city logo. If we want to look at one in the future, that's fine. I just don't see it as the top of the heap, and the fact that we just built a new sign. With this, we had this discussion previously to stay and repair that sign. So that's where we're at. I think we have bigger things to worry about right now.
Councilmember Plowman, followed by Osk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not mean to be argumentative whatsoever regarding this, but I do think it's important to make some delineations. And I can understand the sentiment regarding leaving the current logo in place and with the signage that's been replaced and whatnot. I do think we might be creating some problems, though, if the EDC is currently, if they're operating with like literature and media and whatnot with that newly made logo, then all of a sudden if we've said that is not official, that needs to be changed. Now the EDC is responsible for making those changes, as well as changes that would have to be made with our current website. And I don't know that those changes would be aesthetically pleasing. I think that it opens up some gray area that puts staff in a difficult position, because now they have to make some determinations or judgment calls based on what we're asking them to do, and I don't want that to happen.
Councilmember Osk, followed by Councilmember Osmus.
I'm going to agree with Councilmember Plowman again. I do think it raises concerns that I have too, and with the aesthetics of the website and it seeming to give maybe a little too much direction to our staff. I'm going to vote against the motion and preserve the status quo.
Councilmember Osmus.
I was leaning against that very thought, thinking I don't want to put a lot of time and money and energy into reversing anything with the new logo, to have it change back to the Flying W. I would think that on the website, that would be pretty easy. I don't feel like we need to change all of the EDC's letterheads and brochures, just because of a technicality on how this was approved. I'm not a marketing person. I don't really have a stake one way or the other. I like the Flying W and I like the newness of the new one. But I agree with the continuity if we can do it at no cost, but otherwise I would like to just have things the way they are, even though they might be slightly confusing, but until we can address a new kind of logo that everybody can agree on, to just stay where we're at and change what we can with no cost.
And I think like I said, we're in the process of our comprehensive plan, and this is really where that discussion can land right now. And it's going to be a year's time before the comprehensive plan is all finalized. And so I think that, staff can start planning, the planning director and such can start having those questions and those, include that in the public engagement processes that we're going to be going over the next 12 months. So we've got a lot of time.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. I'm feeling frustrated with this because the confusion's already there. The EDC puts up marketing, other people put out marketing. We get to something where we need to do legal paperwork, we're back to the W.
Yep.
And the W is our legal logo. And I'm not saying go out and unpaint the trucks and do that. I think there are simple steps that could be taken to recognize that this is our legal logo. If we want to change it, then let's take up a plan and have the community engagement and do all of that and take a year to come up with a new logo. But this is our legal logo. And it's confusing right now to figure out, oh, this must be a marketing piece because it doesn't have our legal logo on it. And someone just decided, oh, let's put this logo on it because we like this one better than the other, but we never adopted it. So our legal logo is the W. And so all I'm saying is let's acknowledge that and use it. We can change it on the simple things and make sure, because right now, that's what our letterhead says, and that's what our business cards say, and that's what our legal documents say. So I just don't understand why we don't want to at least have a plan until we do something different.
I believe that the reason it was brought to the council table was to try to clear up that confusion and to try to get direction. The direction that staff is looking for is the direction of what do you want. And I don't think, I mean, the staff is looking for direction. And they understand the confusion as well. And we have talked about this before. I think we even talked about it at a retreat once, but the council didn't make a decision. And what happens is when decisions aren't made,
This is what happens.
this is what happens. And then you have one group of people that don't want to change, you have another group of people that want to change, and then for whatever reason, the vote doesn't happen, and then you have this myriad of flux. And so I commend Ms. Valiant to bringing this to us and saying, as a council, you need to decide what you want to do here, because this is confusing not only to staff, it's confusing to the public. And do I agree it's not at the top of the heap? It's probably not at the top of the heap, but we've got two big developers looking at Willmar and how many other developers are out there. And people will tell you in marketing all the time. I mean, I worked in marketing the last 5 years I worked, and we spent a lot of money on what we looked like, and that we were new, cutting edge, and things were happening. And I mean, we have a motion on the table. We're going to be voting very, very soon. Do we stay with where we were? Or do we instruct staff to bring back some things? And, you know, you don't eat an elephant by eating an elephant. You eat it one bite at a time. Every one of us have heard that 5,000 times. And you have to start someplace. And what our community looks like to people from the outside is extremely important. And yes, it may not be at the top of the heap, but it's pretty doggone close to the top of the heap, in my opinion, as the mayor. So are we ready to vote? Councilmember Plowman.
I'm just wondering, maybe for coalescence here, would the motioner possibly be friendly to an amendment that might provide a little bit more flex in the motion? That motion being acknowledging that the official city logo is the red flying W, but also not directing staff to go making any substantial or costly changes to literature or marketing materials until we have the time to further discuss this and address this formally?
I think either we use the logo or we don't. And, you know, the confusion's already there. The developers are already seeing the confusion with the two logos and the materials. So the question is, do we want to spend 10 or 20 grand or 100 grand to change our logo and our signs and all of those things right now? I just don't see it as the top of the heap, and I'd like us to use this logo. I'm not opposed to looking at coming up with a process. I just don't, we have bigger things to worry about than the logo. And, you know, we don't have to do anything. We can leave the confusion as it is. We have an unadopted logo that is used on our website and in our marketing right now. And the question was asked with, what do you want to do? If we're going to do a new logo, then we need to have a design and go through the whole process and come up with a marketing plan and all of that. All I'm saying is that is not what I think we should be working on right now.
Councilman Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think the confusion just states, it sounds like by the verbiage of the motion that it's less about not adopting a new logo and it's more about reverting back and taking whatever new logo exists anyplace else, and instead of just letting it be until we can make that change, like going in and swapping out logos, in which case I think, you know, to be honest, I think throwing the official red flying W on, throwing that up on the current website is not going to look good. Running into the expense of repainting trucks and whatnot, because I believe that's what the motion is verbatim. I think that's what it says, is if that is then acknowledged as our official logo, then don't we have to make those changes then? Aren't we telling our staff to change those things? And there may be some costs. And I, from my perspective, I'm not looking to adopt the new logo, but tonight, nor am I looking to cement the flying W or revert back on any existing materials. I'd like to just hold steady before making any changes. And I kind of feel like there might be others that want to do that too, just hold steady for the meantime until we can get behind a universal change.
I'm getting scared here. There's so many people agreeing with Councilmember Plowman. Councilmember Osmus.
I guess I'm going to vote against it just because I think we're fine with where we're at. Like I said before, I don't think we need to put any more money or time or energy into changing anything that is in place right now. We just landed a $25 million project that's coming to Willmar. So the logo didn't impact that major business from coming to our city. So for right now, I think I would like to just see everything stay the way it is. I think the city staff is well aware at this point from this discussion that the Flying W is the official logo. Nothing more should go on anything else in the future. Right now, that is what's on all of our trucks. And so we wouldn't be changing anything. Oh, that's on the truck,
Public Works.
Park and Rec.
Park and Rec. But just leave it how it is now, and we'll make changes when we have the opportunity to do a formal logo change.
Okay, looking for new information to the motion. The motion is to stay with the official council adopted logo at this time. That is the motion. Additional comments to the motion. Councilmember Nelson.
So my motion is to keep the W as the official logo, okay? What we're talking about is just total confusion in my mind. We're acknowledging that we don't have a plan, and we're saying, let's just stay the way we are until we have a plan. So that's fine, But the W is our legal and our logo. So I'd say let's not put any, if we're gonna put something on a truck, it should be the legal logo. I don't think that changing it on our website should be a major confusion. And with this much sentiment going on right now, then maybe we need to engage the community in coming up with this. I truly think we have bigger things to worry about right now, and I'm sorry. And if I can tell where the motion is going, and that's fine, but what we're acknowledging is that we can't make a decision. So I'm fine with that too.
Ms. Valiant.
I appreciate that, Councilman Nelson. I would like to, like I have stressed before, in our comprehensive plan, we are working on it over the next 12 months. I would like to direct our planning department that they also include this logo as part of that plan and engagement process, because we will be engaging the public over the next 12 months on a daily basis. If they go out to our website, it is a daily basis. It's going to be a very interactive website for our planning department, for our comprehensive plan. It's going to be looking very cool when you get a chance to look at it. And so I think that is a good place for this to land. And then you will probably see the engagement from the public over the next 12 months at least. And then in any face-to-face conversations, this could be also part of that face-to-face conversation.
Councilmember Butterfield.
So we have the Flying W, we have the logo that got added on. Now we're talking about adding the public on to come up with the logo. We could be running with 3 logos.
No, that won't.
If they're asking for public input on it, we
No,
could
the
be running
council-
with 3 different logos.
No, the council will make the decision on what the logo will be. That's a council decision.
Yeah, but if we had public input and majority of the public says they want something totally different.
Then the council would vote, and if the
Yeah.
council votes to stay with even the crown, and you go back to the one that was the crown, I mean, to bring, all
Well,
3 of them.
We could have 3 different logos. out there.
No. What we're going to do is by the time this is done, we will be down to the one logo, and everything will go down to that one logo.
I just say everything from today forward, just put on the red logo till we get it changed somehow.
Additional comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
No.
Osk.
No.
Davis.
No.
Plowman.
No.
Nelson.
Yes.
Osmus.
No.
Butterfield.
Aye.
2 ayes,
The motion
5
fails.
nays.
Are there any additional motions the council wants to make? Otherwise, I think staff has received the direction that they need to move forward. Unless you need something else. Ms. Valiant. Next, we have consideration of removing the City Hall Community Center from the table. Ms. Valiant.
Yes, as part of, we have a motion in the next one, a request to have a retreat coming up here in October. And so part of that retreat, I would like to have this discussion on the City Hall. So I need to have the council move to take this discussion off the table so we can have further discussion as to what our next steps should be.
Motion to remove the construction of City Hall Community Center from the table for further discussion in the future.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Nelson.
I am fine with removing it from the table. I would ask that both Ms. Valiant and the city council receive the information as to why this was tabled and a review of the minutes and the information that was shared at that time as part of our planning for what we're going to do next.
You
I
have those
have-
directions?
Yes,
Okay.
and if you
So
want,
let's get the motion off the table first. Just a discussion to remove it from the table. All in favor of removing the City Hall Community Center from the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion does carry. Ms. Valiant, you had something to add?
yeah, I do have what the action was taken back in May of this year, along with the Finance Committee minutes back in April of this year also. And I can formally present that in our next discussion if you want. But I would like to, if this is going to be a retreat discussion, then I would like to have council also give staff the opportunity to look into having a project manager, which you have already determined prior to this was going to be BKV Group and for an architect engineering, and have direct BKV Group to formally put together a concept. What you wanted back then was the City Hall and the community center at the community center. Now, you didn't have any concepts of what that was going to look like. You had no project costs from them at all. We have been going on this information that it could be 10.5 million, but that's not really a firm number or even a close number until you get into this project and design. And until you get into the design, you really don't know what your construction costs are going to be. So in my view, we need to really get into a project design cost. Now, you can hire BKV to do that. They could look at our staffing needs, more of our staffing needs than what more than what our footprint is right now. We know what each office size is, but is that the size we need for each office? That discussion really didn't happen with Engen, and so our facilitator needs to really look at that and come up with really what are our staffing needs. Staffing needs have been changing because of COVID for one thing. Do we need some of our staff to have a larger and bigger office or not? Do we need only some of our staff to have cubicles and some are only coming in part-time, or they're coming in 3 days a week, and then the other 2 days, somebody else can use that same cubicle. We're also scanning a lot of our information, so we don't need a lot of storage space in the future. We get our software up to date. Our software then can help us have everything electronically. Permits can come electronically. We're in the process of hiring a building official. A lot of the building officials that I know now, everything becomes a PDF. They make their comments on PDFs. They take their iPads out to the work site. They make their comments on that work site. They don't have to write it on paper. They don't have to have somebody transcribe it, type up a memo on what needs to be done. It is all in the process. So those are things that we need to yet work on. And so I don't think that, we don't need large areas for maps and things like that. Then we need somebody to go through that process, and we need to hire a project manager. It doesn't necessarily have to be BKV. It's just that right now you did approve them as the architect engineer way back when, and they could come up with a proposal as to what that would look like. We could also ask other companies, other engineering firms that do the same thing, and they could also give us a proposal. So you would have something for the retreat to also view.
So my understanding is that we have, the only official action the council has taken is to locate the new City Hall Community Center at the current community center location. That's the only official action, correct?
You made two official actions, three actually, because you did, you actually did make the motion to move RJM Construction as your construction company. Your project risk management company was going to be BKV Group, architect and engineer. So those also were passed.
So those three things have been passed by council?
Yes. And what the conversation was, what tabled this was the finance side. You can't make a decision on the finance side and how to finance it until you have a more firmer number on the building itself and what that building's going to look like. So it's hard to make the decisions on finance. You've made the decision for a $2 million from local option sales tax to go towards the community center, but you don't know of that $2 million, how much is that going to fund that community center, and what needs to go into that community center, and what additional expense do we need for that community center besides the city half of that. And I think you also got thrown a curveball in there with the invest in the Willmar 10 offering up the J.C. Penney site. So that threw a big curveball into your plan. So kind of in actuality, you still have a flux here as to what you really want to do.
Okay, so what I'm hearing being said is that the official action has been that we have hired, or we have approved the contract, but have not executed the contract.
Correct.
With the construction manager at risk and with an architect. But we have not executed those contracts.
Correct.
Do we know, are those contracts still valid based on how old they are or not? Mr. Scott or Ms. Valiant, do we know that answer?
If you want to go ahead.
I can answer by my recollection, but you might have researched this more recently. My recollection was that the contracts were approved and executed, but they were under suspension.
Right.
Shortly after, if my recollection is correct, shortly after the pandemic, when the finances were really in flux and in doubt, I believe the council suspended this along with maybe some of the local option sales tax projects. And I believe they remain in suspension, so they would still be in effect, if my recollection is correct, and could either be terminated by either party at this point, or the city could, if you're considering pursuing the original plan, issue a notice to the architect and construction manager that you are resuming the contract and resuming work under them.
I don't believe that the contracts were ever signed.
Okay.
Right. Correct. They were not signed.
So they were approved by council, and then the administrator at the time, Mr. Gramitz, talked to me and said, I feel uncomfortable signing these because that's when the pandemic was hitting. And then there was a decision not to sign the contract. So my understanding is they were not signed.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct. And I have not had, without having this off the table, it did not do, I could not go to these contractors and say, would you still accept this work under these dollars that you had been approved of prior?
Okay. Okay. We've got a number of council members that wish to speak. Councilmember Nelson, followed by Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nelson.
We agreed to take this off the table, but where I thought we were is this council needs to make a commitment to whether they're willing to finance a city hall or not. And so I don't want us to start another, let's do a design, let's do all of this, until we make a commitment that this is something we can afford to do. No, we don't know the details of it. But the information that we were sitting at when we tabled were what were our options, how much cash were we going to have to use, and simply an acknowledgement that we were going to have to raise taxes. And I'd like this council to make that decision before we start more planning. It's kind of like the logo. I mean, it's a chicken or egg kind of thing. And I think for us and for this community, if this is important enough, then we need to acknowledge, let's raise taxes 10% and let's build a city hall. But I frankly think we have some organizational questions in my mind as to whether we really need a $10 million city hall location. I don't know where. I think we're back at square one with looking at what we need. But once again, I'm not quite sure that we can just pick up where we left off with that. And that's why I asked when we had the motion to take it off the table, for the council to review what we had and to figure out where we are before we start doing something else. I don't want to hire another contractor right now. I want to know that we're committed to do this and not walk to the line and then back off again.
Well, the council did make a motion to pursue looking at a new city hall and a new community center. That motion was made. And then when we got to the line, we did back up. We tabled it.
We tabled it, and that's where we're at now. So let's pick up where we left off at the table with, can we finance this?
Okay.
Are we willing to take the steps to acknowledge that it's going to be a 10% increase in taxes?
I don't know where this 10% comes from. It seems to me the 10% comes from the same guy that kept telling us we didn't have enough money to do local option sales tax. You know, we heard from our bond counsel tonight, we heard from our city administrator
I don't
tonight,
want to.
that is not a true figure.
Okay,
And I
so-
don't want us to go down that, I listen to you, please. I don't want us to go down that rabbit hole of throwing numbers out again that are not true. Let's get the facts.
That's all I'm asking for. And I'm asking for this council to make a decision based off from the facts and to be brave enough to say it to the community and then start planning.
Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, this is a very important juncture in this discussion. We've made action now to take it off the table. A number of different things have happened. A number of different situations have changed. The topic has changed course a number of different times. It was tabled, contracts are apparently suspended, yada, yada, yada. I think it's time for us to take a long zoom back and jump back from the 25,000, 50,000 foot. We got to get back to a 100,000 foot view, and we need to circle wagons as an organization with our staff and with the experts that are in-house and with our body of elected officials. We need to circle wagons, and we need to start to reevaluate the entire project. I get nervous when we start talking about conversations happening with professional organizations again, because that may open a can of worms that we're not ready to open, because there are, I mean, we're so far from coalescing around a plan, it's ridiculous. So we got to zoom way out before we take any kind of action. I think the time to do that, and I think this was the appropriate action to take tonight, so that we can include this as retreat material. This is the tough stuff. We're gonna have to just work through some of this. This is why we're here. And if you know, I'll challenge myself. If I'm not willing to work through this type of stuff, then I need to step aside. And so I would challenge anybody else with that as well. Anybody else that isn't willing to work through this stuff and address these issues properly and professionally needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror before proceeding. And then once we decide to proceed, let's go ahead professionally. Let's take it serious. Let's zoom out to the appropriate level, and let's focus back in and take an organized approach to it. And I can appreciate the direction that you're heading this, and I'm supportive of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional comments or questions? Councilmember Plowman, with the comments that you just made, would you consider then a motion to rescind the 2 contracts that are in place?
Oh, boy. I guess I'd have the discussion, but I think I would like, before doing any of that, I think it would be more appropriate for our staff to consult with our legal expert regarding the current status of contracts. So I would make a motion directing staff to consult with legal and to give a proper overview of current contract status, and then come back to the council with a recommendation, or at least a report regarding where we stand in those contracts. And that way, going into our retreat, we know exactly where we're at, and we can zoom out to the appropriate level so that we can have the appropriate conversations. I'd make that as a motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion to the motion. All in favor of the
What was the motion?
I forgot, I did
The
so much
motion
talking.
is
A lot of
to,
words in there.
the motion is to have legal staff review the existing contracts and provide direction to the council on next steps. I'm paraphrasing. That's pretty much what it
Sounds
wasn't it?
good.
Yeah.
Just, so basically, we're just looking to see if we're still bound by those.
Right, let's find out the legal details before we take any sort of action so that we can go into the retreat knowing
Where we're headed.
and that we can be out as far as we need to be so that we can start to funnel back in again.
Additional comments, or comments to the question? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion does carry.
Thank you.
Additional discussion, Councilmember Osmus.
Well, I see, we'll have more discussion of this at the retreat then, about locations, and if we can come to an agreement, a consensus about, is there a need and how are we going to address it? So, I'll save it for the retreat.
Perfect. Just understand that staff will not have a lot of stuff prepared for the retreat because we're asking them to pull back. So, Councilmember Osk.
How much information on the financials would we have at the retreat? You know, I can appreciate what you said, Ms. Valiant, about needing to have the plan before we look to finance. But, you know, we're throwing percentage numbers out tonight. It'd be great to have some of that. When this was tabled in the past, I expected, my thought is that our finance team would be bringing us information about how much cash on hand exists that could be purposed for a new city hall. Is that something that we could expect to have at the retreat?
Yes, I believe that is something we can have at the retreat. We sure will make it our goal.
That would be great.
Councilmember Nelson.
That is why I asked when the motion came off the table for the council to receive now the information that we have been discussing, so that we have a background and make sure that everybody has it, and we can update accordingly. So I'm sorry, but I think the financial has held us back right now, and we need to work through that to get to the next steps.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to surmise what I heard, and if I'm wrong, somebody please correct me. So we're looking for some direction from council on funding opportunities for potential dollars, or how we could fund a city hall, and not necessarily the numbers, but how we could fund city hall. We're not currently looking for staff to proceed with any design conversations at this point, and we are having our legal staff review the contracts that have been approved by council and have not yet been signed. And then that information would be available for us at a retreat. If on the next item we do agree to that, we would then look at those items in totality, understanding that we're not going to have, you know, how many square feet do we need and all of that stuff. So that stuff will not be compiled prior to the retreat, but the other stuff will. Do I have consensus of the council that that's what we want to do? Okay. Councilmember Osmus.
I do feel though, to have an informed, intelligent conversation about the issue is we can have kind of a ballpark idea of what the cost is per square foot of any kind of a building. It may not be exact, and so that was kind of part of what we were operating out of before when we were throwing out that $10 million figure or 10.5. And we got stuck when we started talking about the financing and how, whether or not we could do it. So we had a special finance meeting, and we came up with ways that we could finance 10.5 million. We met the standard. So then it was okay. Then, because the whole question was, could we have that money in order to go forward? We were able to come up with some ways that we could make it happen between budget things and tax increase. Then we got to the council and it got tabled. So I think we have to have the conversation. We have to have some idea of what kind of cost we are having to finance. Yes, it won't be exact. So yes, maybe we're not talking about square footage, but we have a ballpark of what we're gonna need. And especially because I think the community center is left hanging in this. They are the ones that are left hanging. And we know what that square footage amount is. And we need to have everybody to, whether it's gonna be compromised, but when we come to the table at the retreat to decide how we're going to move forward with this.
Councilmember Nelson.
I realize we need a new city hall. We have a local option sales tax that was approved for how long? And we're in year 3. So to think that we have to do everything in the first 3 years, I understand we need a new community center. I'm not convinced that it needs to be combined with City Hall. But we just listened to a presentation on how bad our streets are a couple meetings ago. We need a retreat for more than just City Hall. And I don't want City Hall to consume our ability to have a retreat on how we function and what we're gonna do and all of those things. And so I don't wanna do a City Hall retreat. I wanna do a City Council retreat that will make our council better to function and figure out logos and figure out how to fund things and those types of things. Because I do believe we're past due for having a retreat to get us to work together and to function and to talk about our structure and all of those things. And so I don't want to focus on square footage and all of those things. Maybe there has to be a second retreat on what we decide at the first one. But we got to figure out the steps to move forward and then back up and let them happen.
Well, so are we done on the city hall conversation? Are we moving to the retreat? Kind of sounds to me like we're done with that item, now we're moving to the retreat. So I want to make sure everybody is had their say. I don't want us to move faster than we want to move, but the comments were all around the retreat here. So is that the direction we want to go now? Okay, so the city hall piece, you've got your direction. I gave those 3 overviews. You're going to kind of have to add in a little bit what Councilmember Osmus stated into those my summary comments there. And so next then is the discussion to finalize the details for a council staff retreat. Ms. Valiant.
Yes, so I have met with a facilitator. I don't know if anybody knows Cheryl, but Cheryl has conducted many different retreats and such. Cheryl Glasser, she comes out of Hutchinson. She is with Achieve, her own personal facilitating company. She has given us a price of $4,125 for this. It would be approximately an 8-hour retreat, start in the afternoon, late afternoon, maybe about 4 o'clock, finish 8 o'clock in the evening, along with starting then in the morning, about 8, 9 o'clock, depending on what you'd like, and then finishing about noon. Now, you can have the retreat outside of the city of Willmar. I do have, well, I should say that, we found some other information today. I can let Mr. Scott expound on that, but right now, I do have the Arrowwood temporarily on hold for us for October 1st through the 2nd. That's a Friday to Saturday morning. They will accommodate us, and if it's not the council's wishes to go outside of the city, we certainly will be, I'm sure we can find some place to facilitate that, and then the look will probably just be a little bit different. Although we could have supper in the evening and then close about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then resume again in the morning at that same facility. So I'm sure we can accommodate something like that here in town also. Robert, did you want to expound on what you were discussing earlier?
Yeah, Mayor, Council, my recommendation to the council is actually that you try and find a facility within city limits for your retreat. And the reason for that is I was a little concerned when I heard about Arrowwood. I wondered if that would be really considered an open and accessible meeting, which is, you may remember from previous retreats, it does have to be open to the public under the open meeting law. And I actually found while the open meeting law is silent about where the location of meetings need to be held, there is a Supreme Court case that says for a meeting truly to be open and accessible, it needs to be held within the jurisdictional boundaries of the entity holding the meeting. So if it's possible at all to find a suitable location within the city, that would be my recommendation.
Well, I think that kind of pigeonholes us in that one.
Yes.
Is there a motion to agree that we have a retreat as staff is recommending?
I make a motion to agree to have the retreat.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion does carry. How about, if it's okay with council, we'll have staff bring back a location recommendation. Are the dates okay with council? The 1st and the 2nd of October. So in the past, this is where we've always gotten hung up, is
Yes.
that we will agree to have a retreat, and then we set the time, and we can't all be there, so then we just don't have it. And so I think we just need to say it's going to be October 1st and 2nd, if that's what staff has selected as the dates. And we just do the best we can to make it happen. And if we can be there, we can be there. If we can't, that happens as well. So Councilmember Osmus.
I had a prior commitment, but I was just gonna wait to see if anybody else did. And then I would see what I could do about my hotel accommodations for that weekend.
Were they at the Arrowwood?
Mayor Calvin.
Councilmember Nelson.
I think we should try to get a commitment from everyone, and we also have a council member that's not here tonight, so I think it would be, send it out and ask, and I don't know if there's a backup, if that is the only time that you're.
It would end up being late October then, because Cheryl is already committed the following 2 weekends after that. So it could be more tricky.
It would be great to see the full council commit, because we had that happen the last time. And it keeps kind of coming back to bite you if you don't have everybody there.
Councilmember Osk.
I'll join Councilwoman Osmus in saying I too have a prior commitment, and I'll do my best to work around it if that's what we chose, but late October does sound better to me.
Late October, depending upon how late you're looking, but
would-
MEA weekend,
It would be it'd be towards the end of October, then the last weekend or so of October.
MEA weekend, I think would probably
20th.
put quite a few people off
Yep.
the
Right.
start.
Well, can't we send out one of those polls again, with like October 1st, 2nd, and then 3 weeks later, and then 4 weeks later, and see which one works? And that way we got it in October, either the 1st or
The
the
20th.
last two, or the 1st of November, but the 1st of November, we got deer season.
When is MEA, do we know?
I think it's the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, I think. Well, again, like I said before, we can agree to have a retreat. It's just the day we have trouble with. So I'll look for you to do your magic on trying to find the day that we can make the majority. But maybe suggest that, does the 29th and 30th of October work for most people at this point?
First.
29th and
Or
30th.
29th and 30th. Maybe. I think. I closed my
Okay,
calendar.
It is what it is.
okay, so we will have a retreat, and it all depends upon when. Okay. Next item on the agenda is community pride announcements. Ms. Valiant, thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of heavy items you had on the agenda, and
Appreciate it.
again, you did very well, so.
Thank you
again,
for all your
thanks for
time.
bringing this up to us, so.
Thank you.
Next, we have community pride announcements. On Saturday, Flags of Honor dedication will be at 11 o'clock for those that can make that. There's been a tremendous commitment from our community for that event. And so remind the council of attending that. Also, at the community center, the Lions will be having their pancake breakfast that morning. So if you want to stop and have breakfast at community center first, and then go to the Flags of Honor. And then, as we heard from Ms. Valiant and also from Gary Manzer at our last meeting, the downtown event is happening from 11 to 1, and I believe that the Presbyterian Church is having a dinner that day as well. So anybody else from the council have items for community pride? Councilmember Butterfield.
Yeah, regarding the MMA fight that we just had out at the Civic Center, I heard everything positive. Everybody that attended had a great time. I haven't heard of really anything that went wrong out there, so I'm very proud that we got that up and going for them.
Okay. Additional comments or questions? With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned.